Welcome everyone, Marcelo is my name. I'm the niche fragrance collector and I'm continuing my conversation on the amazing house of Perris Monte Carlo. Gian Luca Perris, who is the founder, creative director, and also the nose for the house, as he released a fragrance, and this is, I guess, the point of difference with the Perris Monte Carlo range. It's about respecting the note that is in that perfume and the different facets. You'll notice that all the perfumes, the name of the actual note is the name of the perfume. Last week I spoke about Patchouli Nosy Be. Nosy Be is an island from where it's actually sourced from. The fragrance is all about the patchouli note and its different facets. Spicy, earthy, a little bit on the musty side. So it's all these different components. So he doesn't crowd it with other notes that take away from the core essence of that particular fragrance note. Today, I want to talk about the SANTAL du Pacifique and also the YLANG YLANG from Nosy Be too. But first, let me talk about Santal. Santal being sandalwood. Now, we as humans, we've always enjoyed the scent of sandalwood. We actually have 4,000 years of recorded history of us using sandalwood, primarily religious ceremonies. They found that there was something soothing or calming with the smell of sandalwood. Two ways that they would do it. One, they would actually shave the actual sandalwood, and from the sawdust they would create like an incense. And the other way was by steam distillation. You'll note that the Arab nation were at the forefront, this is in 10th century, at the forefront of steam distillation. Have a look at a gentleman by the name of Avicenna. He's the one that actually created the concept of steam distillation. And so they knew how to extract the scent of sandalwood for other purposes. Now with science, we're able to understand that there's a molecule in sandalwood called A-santalol that research has been done. And this particular molecule, this particular ingredient, actually creates a calming, soothing effect on us as humans. So back in the, I guess in our history, as humans, we understood there was something in sandalwood that made us, I guess, drawn to it, hence why they linked it to so many different religious practices. Today, a good sandalwood, and I've heard many people say this to me, that they love a nice woody sandalwood fragrance because it feels, they feel grounded, it calms, it sort of lowers their vibration. I'll go one more. I don't know if you've noticed, I like to wear beads. I'm a bit of a, in Spanish, in Argentina we say gitana. Gitana means, or gypsy, I mean, so no disrespect to the gypsies, but if you, in Argentina, if someone wore a lot of jewelry, they will call a gitano or gitano. So I do love to wear, I'm a bit of a jewelry sort of guy. Anyway, so this particular item is sandalwood. And it has this wonderful, woody, earthy, slightly aromatic nuance to these beads. And I've worn these for a while, so, and actually I'll go one more. As it moves around on me, it almost polishes the actual wood, and it continues to emit that scent. So there's a calming property to a really nice sandalwood fragrance. Now, sandalwood itself comes from the Indian sort of territory. It's found throughout different parts of Asia. Primarily it was grown in India in an area called Mysore. I'm sure you've heard of Mysore sandalwood. Unfortunately, to extract the oil from the sandalwood tree, you do have to cut it. The problem that you have there is that it takes between 25 to 30 years for the tree to mature to the level that the scent is going to be robust enough that it can be used within perfumery. Due to high demand and also illegal logging, the sandalwood has become quite scarce. Mysore sandalwood is almost impossible to find. I know that the Indian government has restricted where it can be used. It's primarily only used in India itself for religious ceremonies. So to have a Mysore sandalwood in a fragrance is actually quite rare. Thank goodness. Aussies, there is an awesome company called Quintus who's realized this need in the market and have been cultivating sandalwood trees for a number of years. But this is also being done in New Caledonia. And that's why Gian Luca went to New Caledonia to source the Santal from that particular area. Hence why it's called SANTAL du Pacifique. As I mentioned earlier, and similar to the patchouli, all the notes in here are all in support of what is the nuances that are relating to sandalwood. Sandalwood is described as being either creamy or milky. It's sensuous in its profile. It has an earthy tone. There are woody components to it. It does have a bit of a musky built into the actual fragrance. And you'll find that the Santal du Pacifique has all those particular facets. On the opening, you're getting carrot. In the heart, you have orchid, violet, and gurjam balsam, which is a tree resin. Then in the base, the Pacific sandalwood, woods, and musk. You know what I love about the fragrance is if I compare my sandalwood beads and the scent profile that they have versus what I just sprayed, they're very, very similar. And that's what I love about the Perris Monte Carlo fragrances, that and going back to Gian Luca's mission, and that is respect the note. So yes, it's a sandalwood fragrance, but it doesn't have facets that don't really belong to the actual core essence of that particular fragrance note. The interesting thing about Santal du Pacifique is that in its subtlety, it can be underestimated. If I compare Santal 33 with the Santal du Pacifique, the Santal 33 just has this punch. I mean, it will fill a room with the sillage and everything else about it. I find that it's almost like and I don't want to talk poorly on Santal 33, that it has an exaggeration. The Santal there's an exaggeration of what the actual fragrance note is. There is a subtle tenacity when it comes to the Santal du Pacifique. It lingers. It actually stays with me. When I'm wearing it, there is this wonderful sillage, there's this wonderful push that the fragrance has, but it's not, if I'm comparing, it's not a Santal 33 where it's going to fill a room. It stays within me, but it has a subtle tenacity. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. I find that I get 12 plus hours from this particular fragrance. I wear it on the day, the next day I can still smell it on me. It has all the facets that I want in a true sandalwood fragrance. This now contains all those different components that we fall in love with sandalwood, with that raw essence of sandalwood in the beginning. The earthiness, the woodiness, the slight muskiness that's in there, and also that, I guess, that milky, sort of creamy component to it. One of the amazing things that Perris Monte Carlo do is for every tree that is harvested for the sandalwood, they plant 50 in its place. It's part of their sustainability program that they've got going within that New Caledonia plantation. The next one that I want to talk about is Ylang Ylang. And where Santal has this calming, soothing property, Ylang Ylang is all about sensuality. There's an awesome story as I was doing my research. The actual flowers comes from primarily the Philippines. It's also found in places like Malaysia and Indonesia, but it seems to be that, I guess, its origin is from the Philippines. The story goes that there was, of course, it always involves a beautiful young lady and a boy who is poor, not wanted by the family. So this young lady, her name was Ylang, spelt with an I, and she was the most beautiful in the village and favored of the whole community. And she fell in love with a poor farmer boy, and they would meet at the edge of a forest. And eventually the parents found out, and of course dads, because that's what dads do, you can't see the boy anymore. And as a result, she was brokenhearted and died. And her spirit, because she loved that particular location where she would meet the boy, her spirit went to that place and a tree came out. And what happened was that the young man came to that location, smelt the air and recognized it to be her, and in anguish cried out, "Ylang, Ylang." Beautiful, romantic. If anything, what that does, it gives you a feeling of what is Ylang Ylang. The key of it is sensuality. The facets that it has is that it's slightly fruity. It has animalic tones to it. There is a floral, but it's more yellow floral in its sort of structure, which means it's kind of powdery. There's a sweetness to it, but it does have a bouquet of flowers essentially. So it's very distinct from a white flower versus what Ylang Ylang produces. It's heady, but it's not heady like a white floral can be, where sometimes some white florals like a jasmine or even tuberose, they're a little bit on the heady side. They're almost to the point where like, woo, it makes you a bit woozy. Whereas Ylang Ylang has this sort of, I guess, a carnal sensuality. There's a groundingness to the particular fragrance. The Ylang Ylang from Nosy Be has also its own nuance. I always get this kind of warm, so it's a floral, but it's a floral that a man can wear. My wife loves to wear Ylang Ylang, but I wear Ylang Ylang. It has a facet of an animalic component to it, but not like a musk, like an animalic musk that you might get out of a, I don't know, like out of an animal, like a civet or something of that nature. On the top note, you're getting a lemon with a mint. Then in the heart is Ylang Ylang from the Nosy Be Island, that's off the coast of Madagascar, along with rose and jasmine sambac. Finally in the base, vanilla and musk. The most famous use of Ylang Ylang is in 1920 by a little perfume called Chanel No. 5. It actually was one of the key ingredients in that particular fragrance, along with the aldehyde and the jasmine that was in there. There's another story that in the South Pacific, for newlyweds, they actually put the Ylang Ylang flower on the bed of the newlywed because it has an aphrodisiac element to it. I don't know if that's completely true. I'm going to say they're newlyweds. I don't think they need too much inspiration to to do what needs to be done. That gives you an idea of how this particular fragrance note is used or represented. Actually, the best way to define it, because it's like, you can say a fragrance is sensual, but that's not necessarily what this is about. There is a sensuality to it, but it's not sexual. The best way that as I was thinking, how do I define that? For me, it's flesh on flesh, so it's these two bodies together, it's in that warmth, that moment. That's what this fragrance is. I don't get too many of sometimes I find that some Ylang Ylang fragrances has a fruity component to it. I find that the fruitiness in this Ylang Ylang has been toned down. If anything, I get more of the warmth, that animalic, but again, not musk animalic. This is now pushing into a floral animalic. There is a deeper, not necessarily woody either, but there is a deeper sense in here. Again, for me, it's two bodies, the warmth that's being generated from this connection, that musk that is involved with these bodies, but then that sweetness, that floral component. It is a sensual fragrance. It is a fragrance, so I wouldn't wear this to the office, put it that way. This is a going out fragrance. This is a special occasion fragrance. A man, in my opinion, because this man does, can comfortably wear it. This is not, sometimes I find, I'm not a high floral kind of person, so anything too soft and floral, like Chanel No. 5 also has Ylang Ylang. I can't wear Chanel No. 5. The aldehydes is way too high on that. Soft floral, perfect, beautiful on a woman. Whereas I find that the Ylang Ylang Nosy Be has this beautiful, warm sensuality to it that just works beautifully, or works perfectly on me. For me, the sillage on this is also in the moderate, but now a bit more confident, where the Santal du Pacifique has a moderate sillage, but it's almost like it's pressed in a little bit. I find that the Ylang Ylang, it actually extends itself a lot more. When it comes to the full scent profile, I find that I get 6 to 7 hours when it comes to the Ylang Ylang. As I mentioned, for me, Santal, 12 plus. The full scent profile on Santal is a lot stronger than what I find with Ylang Ylang. So there you have it, 3 amazing fragrances within that black collection from Perris Monte Carlo. Have a look, they have an extensive range and they have different notes within that range. So vetiver, tuberose, actually my wife also owns tuberose. If you like the tuberose note, it's sublime. It's absolutely sublime. Again, not crowded with other notes. Smells divine. For me, tuberose is such a glorious scent for a woman, and on my wife, it's just awesome. Thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you guys all on the next episode.